Right, welcome to another episode of the Powerful Lives podcast. Today we've got Ryan Tomo Thompson. A PT and a mental health ambassador.
Indeed.
Really looking forward to this one.
Me too.
Let's take it back to the beginning, where you actually grew up and how you got to this point now. No pressure.
No pressure. So I was born in a house on the Isle of Sheppey. Anyone who doesn't know that place, it's down in the south coast. And mum and dad, dad previously was based in Singapore for a few years because he was a Royal Marine. So yeah, dad is obviously of a military background. I've got an older sister, and mum and dad always worked really, really hard to just put food on the table. Dad, sometimes he would have 3-4 different jobs. He'd be when he come out of the military, window cleaner, bricklayer, worked at a local steel mill, just to put food on the table. So from that work, I learned a really good work ethic from him. Mum obviously worked, bringing up me and my sister as well. And the Isle of Sheppey itself, if anyone knows it, I mean, I'm still there now. It's a lovely, lovely place, but Sheerness itself, it is a deprived area, high rate of teenage pregnancy. Not a lot of work around. So, people have to venture off the island, which sounds really dramatic, but, to go to London, you're talking about, you can just jump on a train, but for a lot of people, that's quite a big thing to go up to London and even get the education right where you live, because the education on the island, it still is pretty poor, and you still have to go off the island to get a good form of education for some of the kids. There's not a lot of opportunities there, so has been quite tough. I left school, went straight into employment. I worked in a factory. That was for a good 12 to 14 years. Actually, it was about 10 years. It's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to follow my dad's footsteps, and I always felt I let him down with that, and I didn't go in the military. Didn't have the bollocks to do it. I just felt really unconfident in doing so and taking that step.
It's not for everyone.
No, and I admired my dad, still do massively, for doing that. He had to come out due to ill health, and he died through meningitis. But I always admire him for that. But I always thought that I let him down because I didn't follow that. So I've always felt that I didn't meet his expectations, if you like.
I always wonder when it's military based. I always wonder whether what they've been through and that life, whether they'd want their son to go through the same.
Yeah, and I'm friends with other people. I'm actually friends with a bloke I met on a show, which I'll come on to later, whose son was in the military but got killed in the military through friendly fire a few years ago. And you're going to worry, aren't you? You worry about your kids just going to school. We was talking about something earlier, wasn't we?
Yeah.
We worry about our kids just going outside and going to school sometimes.
I think it'd be my worst nightmare if one of my kids come home and told me they're joining the military. I'd be like, why?
Yeah, definitely. But I think for me, I just felt, and I probably still do to this day, that I wasn't meeting that expectation. I just worked in a factory. I've gone on to do sort of slightly bigger and better things since. And I regret that I haven't gone into that field because I think I missed out. But my confidence when I was growing up was low. It was for various reasons. I think, it was rock bottom.
How was school?
Shit. But only shit because of my confidence. I had lots of friends. I was very popular. I was very sporty. But school for me was terrifying because, and to this day, maths, for example, I struggled. I would do anything to dip out of questions. And it got to a point in primary school where, and I can laugh about it a bit now, but that's not to be insensitive towards anyone else who might suffer with the same, because I was that unconfident. I would be scared to ask to go to the toilet. And the amount of times, I couldn't tell you, that I would sit there and piss myself in the front of what we have 30 kids in a class.
Where do you think that come from?
Thought about this a lot, and I have spoken about it in therapy. it does come down to obviously childhood, parenting. I don't feel that I was ever shown the love from my parents, particularly my dad. I don't think he knew how to. He still doesn't. Don't think he's ever told me he loves me. I've always been, through my own fault sometimes, the black sheep of the family and things I've done. But back then, yeah, I just struggled. I was covered in eczema. My hands would be terrible with eczema. So when we had to hold hands with the other kids to walk to assembly and stuff, I wouldn't do it. And when it was summer and I'd have like massive cracks in my fingers, behind my legs, you know, I'd want to hide that. And it was awful. And plus, you know, because we didn't have a great deal of money and you'd always think that other kids had everything and you had very little, you know, you felt a little bit ashamed. So therefore, in lessons, when I was sitting there and wanting to go to the toilet, desperate, I guess I just didn't feel like I was in a position to ask a question and get a response that I wanted from an adult, because I was scared of what that response would be. It's hard to explain, but I'd be terrified, and I would literally sit there and I'd get more attention from pissing myself. And then, you know, the kids say, oh, he's done it again. But one particular day that really broke my heart, and it sticks with me now, is I'd obviously done this a few times, and this particular teacher, Mrs. Borner, I believe her name was, she's passed away now. She was one of them old dragons of a teacher, terrifying.
Old school,
terrifying. You wouldn't want to cross her. But I'd wet myself this particular day again, and when the parents come to pick us up, they used to line up out front waiting for us to come out. And the teacher, this Mrs. Borner, held my pants up and said, in front of all the other teachers, he's done it again. Like literally said, you know, and to this day, you know, I mean, fucking scarred me.
Could you imagine if that happened now?
Oh my God, no. What would, you know, how, would that ever happen?
Social media uproar.
Oh my God.
Teacher would be, you know, sort of undrawn and quartered.
100%. And I'd like to say that, you know, in some respects it toughened me up. But at that time, I probably needed nurturing a bit. I needed looking after. I needed that arm around me. But I've got this teacher going, yep, he's done it again. You know, and everyone probably, well, I felt everyone knew what I'd done. You know, holding my bloody pants up there, you know, that had been spent in a pit. Oh. And that was just one of a few examples, I think, where, you know, it knocked my confidence even more. But I was popular, you know, I had friends. I was never bullied or anything like that. I was sporty. I was always enjoying, like, sports day. I didn't suffer anything else, you know, other than my own confidence. I was kind of my own worst enemy in a lot of respects, yeah.
But you grew out that, I take it.
Took a long time, but I found that to kind of build my confidence up, I needed to get attention in other ways. So as I grew up and I left school, even before I left school, to be honest, I would get drunk. I would get so drunk that people would give me the attention. Oh, he's really pissed. You know, he's so drunk. You know, at a very young age, smoking weed.
What sort of age are we talking?
I started drinking at 13. I was smoking cannabis then, cannabis resin, you know, at 13 when I went up to comprehensive school. And again, it brought, you know, it was an escape, but it also brought me a bit of attention. And at that time, I enjoyed that attention for the wrong reasons. And then when I went off to work, you know, I was still drinking a lot. Then it turned into fighting, going out with some of the older lads that I worked with in the factory. Some of them would enjoy going out and having a scrap on a Saturday night. And I thought, well, you know, they're getting a bit of attention. You know, I wasn't much of I'd had a few scrapes as I was growing up. And I got involved in a few fights, and from then I was getting a bit of attention, getting a bit of a reputation. Not as an hard man, never been a hard man or anything like that, but you don't need to be an hard man to go out and be a pain in the arse and be a drunken idiot go out fighting.
Was it quite lively where you was for that sort of thing on a weekend, Friday, Saturday night?
100%. It was commonplace.
Yeah.
And there was no CCTV about, so you could get away with a lot more as well then. You could have a proper punch-up. There weren't, you know, knives and weapons weren't really used. You know, it was a proper punch-up. And I would do it usually with other people around me. You know, it's a bit cowardly. But I enjoyed the buzz. You know, I'd get a bit of an hiding sometimes as well. And that did carry on for many, many years. But you get to a point where you realise this attention I'm getting, it's not good attention at all. And I've got people that, you know, looking for me, wanting to come and smash the shit out of me, you know, when we're not out on a Saturday night and I'm not with my mates. So, yeah, I grew tired of it, and I got to a point where I'm like, fucking hell, this actually ain't right. But when you get a bit of a reputation, people want to come and try you out, and it becomes a normal Saturday night, and then people don't want you around. People don't want to invite you to parties.
Can I say you become a liability?
Yeah, and I didn't realise it for a long time. And I look back now, and I cringe a little bit about it. And I don't like to regret too much, but I do regret some of the time I wasted being that person. But it has made me into who I am today, which is a much better person.
Good. Yeah, good. So you left school, what, 15, 16?
Yeah, 16. Went straight into, it was my sister's fiance at the time. He worked in this factory, furniture making, machine operating. So I was lucky enough to get a sort of foot in the door then, earning about 60 quid a week. But I worked, I got up and I grafted, and I'd done that for, like something 9 or 10 years, I think it was in the end, on and off. But again, I had that work ethic. My dad had taught me a really good work ethic. If you don't go out there and earn your money, you ain't going to get fuck all.
Yeah. Don't exist anymore, by the way.
It doesn't seem to, does it?
It's unbelievable.
But I'm trying to teach that to my daughters. I've got twin daughters, so I'm trying to teach that to them. You can't have everything on a plate. You have to fucking work for it.
I think the trouble is now they see this online. They see these people online living, and they're living fake lives. Most of what you see online, they don't own. They don't, you'll see someone posting about their happy life and their car that's strapped up to the hilt, and the house that they've borrowed for the day to make themselves look better than they actually are. Exactly
that. And it's hard to try and get, as a dad, 48-year-old dad, to try and get that message across to your daughters that actually some of this is bullshit. Don't believe everything.
Yeah. Let me get on Love Island. I've made it.
Yeah,
no, you've not.
And I'm very truthful, as I'm sure you are, about what the realities are of being famous and the money. Like you say, some of these people that live around the corner from you, they may have the car, they may have nice clothes, but you don't know the rest of the story. Don't worry about what they've got. You need to aspire to what you want to do, not to what others have got.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, well, listen, we've all been there. I think we've all, you see the car driving past and you think, oh, I want that. And I've been lucky enough to own some very nice vehicles, but you're never happy. You always want more.
And what is happiness? That's what
you're just chasing. You're chasing. I read something this morning. It was basically saying, you need to find happiness where you are instead of it always being in the next place.
Yeah.
And that really resonated. I thought that's so true, because most of us are always, it's always next year or the next job or the next this or this. No one seems to want to sort of live in the moment, do they?
And that is so important, where I think now with my girls, we can go anywhere, we can have a laugh, and those moments are precious. And I think it might be getting through to them a bit, because we go out, we have a laugh, and they're actually saying, that was such a great day. They've really enjoyed it. We've had no phones or anything like that. We went down to Margate the other week, went to Dreamland, it was pretty quiet there, weather was nice, and we went on the old rides, and we had such a laugh. We was arm in arm, having a bit of banter as well between us there at that age now. We can, and that is absolutely invaluable. It's priceless.
Time over money.
Massively. And don't get me wrong, I like cars. I want nice cars and stuff, but it's not got to be the be all and end all of why we're here. In my opinion,
if all you've got is that car and nothing else, and you can't really afford it, it's not for you.
No, and like yourself, you've probably come across people who have got a lot, got money in the bank, got nice cars, but they're still searching for that happiness somewhere.
I see a lot of wealthy, unhappy people. I don't think happiness. I don't think you need to be either poor and happy. They always explain, would you rather be poor or happy? You can have both. The
Definitely.
Same way, there's a lot of rich, unhappy people. It's balance.
It is, and I think that's key, isn't it? It's that balance and finding what makes you happy rather than worrying about what society says should make you happy.
Yeah, definitely.
And of course we want nice things and wear nice clothes. They feel good, drive the nice cars, of course, but for my girls, I've said to them, even at school at the moment, it's aspire to being a good person, do the best you can, get educated as best you can to the best of your ability, but go through school years being a nice person without being bullied and without being a bully. And for me, you know, if you can get through that and come out a decent person, you're winning, in my view.
Yeah.
Most
And
definitely.
I think, listen, school's tough. It's tough being a kid now.
Mm.
You know, like, it's a tough gig. Schools can be horrible, vile. You know, the days of going home, you know, getting home and shutting the front door and it's all done, it don't end anymore. You know, these bullies, they're online. Yeah,
and there's kids killing themselves over that.
Yeah, it's horrible.
And it's fucking disgusting.
Yeah.
It really is. There's kids, you know, I've heard stories of kids, you know, hanging themselves. And they have because, you know, messages have been coming through on Facebook or WhatsApp.
No escape.
Yeah, and it's there and there's no one actually standing in front of them. It's just a phone.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunately a lot of the problem. And any of these keyboard warriors can do that, can't they?
Yeah. It's what we're saying off camera, the importance of talking, you know, even for kids.
Yeah.
For kids to be able to you know, speak to their parents.
Yeah.
Speak to a friend, speak to anyone and say, look, this is going on.
And that's a massive thing that I've learned over the years is, you know, I think the fighting and the aggression, whether it's on the football pitch, whether it's in the pub, that was my outlet. Because deep down, there's a lot of stuff that was hurting, you know, going on in my head, which unfortunately has sort of led me on to be diagnosed with a borderline personality disorder, which I was diagnosed about 5 years ago now by a psychiatrist. And those issues have obviously come from childhood. So when we look back at what we were just talking about the confidence side of things and the, you know, the upbringing and that lack of how I felt it was of love and attention, that had a massive impact. And I'm now the opposite with my girls. You know, I'll probably overdo it in some ways in terms of my love, but then I guess can you overdo it?
It's not a bad thing, yeah.
Rather do that, not at all.
Was there any major trauma early on that actually you can pinpoint this, or was it just, you know, numerous little things?
I would say there was quite a lot of little things. I mean, I witnessed a fair bit in terms of my parents being aggressive towards each other, and I think that was born out of a lot of stress through, you know, money. Regardless of my dad having loads of jobs, they obviously had bills to pay, but there was a lot of, you know, my mum headbutting my dad and busting his nose, throwing dinner plates at him, and yeah, a lot of the time it was my mum being the aggressor.
Really?
Yeah, which when I go through it, yeah, 9 times out of 10 it would be that way round. But when you ask my parents, who I don't actually speak to, haven't done for quite a long time now, they were, it weren't that bad. But I used to shut myself in the downstairs toilet and put tissue in my ears to block it out when they would argue, because it would be so loud and I would be in there sobbing my heart out. But they don't see that.
I don't think parents realise the damage they're doing to kids arguing in front of them. You know, and that's parents together, you know, sort of separated parents roaring in front of the kids. It can be quite horrible. In
a lot of ways, it's the emotional side is worse than the physical. And I, again, saw the other side of that because I went on to work for social services for 14 years and I worked with children and families. And the things that obviously I saw and heard there, I mean, eventually it led to me wanting to get out of it after 14 years. Some of the stuff is absolutely horrendous, which made me think, well, my stuff wasn't that bad. But it's still relevant to me at that time, you know, parents arguing, violence, struggling for money and all sorts. Yeah, it's very damaging emotionally. But when I was working on the other side, emotionally and physically, what some of these kids have been through, it's absolutely fucking awful. Awful.
Yeah, I've had a dealing with social services many years ago, and I found them vile. I found them very one-sided.
Oh, 100% agree.
And it was nothing I'd done or anything like that, but just being in the process with them for probably 6 months through something someone else had done.
Yep.
Yeah, I could see. I remember saying to them at the time, I can see why incidents like what happened to Baby P. I can see why it happens, because you haven't got a clue what's going on.
Yeah,
it was scary how they didn't seem to know. You know, the left arm don't know what the right arm's doing.
It comes from the top. You've got social workers out there trying to do a good job, trying to work with families, but you've then got massive pressures from those up top who ain't got a fucking clue most of the time. And in my experience, you know, and their social workers are given ridiculous amounts of cases to work, and you've got pressures from above saying we need this written up, you need that report, you need to be in court tomorrow.
Understaffed, underpaid, understaffed.
All of that.
Yeah.
All of that. And it's still, there's been all these inquiries since, like Baby P and stuff, but actually nothing's changed.
No,
I still know people in it now. Nothing's changed at all. I think you ask any social worker, they're still going off very sick. The daughter of the mother of my daughters, we're not together anymore, but she's a social worker, and you know, she'll tell you firsthand how it is, and she's been involved in that in a long time. Nothing's changed. It really hasn't. You can have a team of social workers that are the best qualified workers you can get, but if they've all got caseloads of 20, 30 cases or more, it's just not workable, and that's no benefit at all to society and these kids and these families out there.
Yeah, and there's people out there with real problems.
Yeah,
and it's not getting seen,
getting missed,
not getting dealt with. Yeah,
yeah, it's awful.
How did you get into the social working?
Well, my dad became a social worker, and I've always been one of them people that's quite good at listening to people. And because of my own experiences growing up, I thought I'll put it to good use. So I worked with young offenders initially. So I was spending a lot of time in and out of youth prisons, and it well, I loved it, absolutely loved it. But as time went on, things changed. You know. You're in the office doing more and more paperwork. You're spending more and more time doing that than going out and doing the one-to-one stuff and talking, which is not why a lot of people like me got into it. But yeah, for a lot of it, I loved it. But over time, quite quickly, yeah, it became very monotonous, and it became very. You start to think everyone's a wrong 'un.
Yeah,
and that, in my view, anyway, I started to think everyone was interfering with kids. Everyone abused their kids when they don't. And that's probably why when people come out and do their job, they're labelling people straight away. And I think they become very blurred by what they keep seeing and label people quite quickly, I think, without actually knowing the full details. I really do.
Yeah, not good.
No, I'm glad I'm out of it.
Yeah.
I've been out of it for some time now, and I'm glad I am. Even though I still work with people, but on a different scale now.
Yeah, yeah. And what about sport? Was you sporty?
Yeah, played football for years. Played football, Saturday football in Kent League. Yeah, loved it. I mean, I played football at a very young age. Got to a point where just sort of done enough. I wasn't one of these ones to come out of having knee or ankle injuries. I was pretty injury free. But yeah, best years of my life playing football. Always played for the school team. That was kind of the thing that kept me going. I think in school was, sport.
Yeah.
But there weren't enough of it. There was not enough of it in our school. They didn't promote it enough, unfortunately. So when every break time we'd play football, and then when there was a school football or cricket event, I'd be involved. But there wasn't enough of it, in my opinion. There wasn't enough of it.
Shame.
Yeah,
I think again these days, I think that's something that seems to have improved. There does seem to be a lot more angles for the people who excel at PE. Back in Christ, 30, 40 years ago, you do PE and you excelled at it, but unless you're going to become a professional footballer, what else you can do with it? Yeah. Whereas now, yeah.
Well, I did hear the other day, I was speaking to a young lad I do PT with, I think he just turned 20. So obviously his school years finished a few years prior. And he was saying that they've, in some schools where he's from, in Sittingbourne, they've banned hockey because of injuries and the risk of people getting injured. And there was a couple of other examples he gave me, and I'm like, really? How can you?
I must say, listen, I remember getting hit round the face with a hockey stick.
You're quite for it.
I think it's 40 years too late for me.
Yeah, but I was never fucking any good at hockey, what I say. But this is where it worries me. There's kids out there with talent, whether it's boxing, whether it's hockey, whether it's athletics, and they need, if they're going to excel, they're going to get seen at school because that's where you spend most of your time. Yeah, and that's where some of the facilities should be. But again, when you're growing up in a slightly deprived area, there's less facilities, and there's a lot of kids in these areas. You go to some of the London boroughs where some of these kids, there's some real talented footballers out there, and I think some of them are getting missed, and probably lots of other sports as well.
I think it's like everything. You've probably got that 1% who can make it.
Yeah. But
they need that bit of luck. They need that little link into where they've got to go.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's not just sport. I think it's across. I always say you could be the best builder, but if you haven't got the best links to get the jobs,
what you know, some do, what you know. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you then get into the mental health side of things?
So obviously I gave up social work. I was in full-time employment, massive step to be self-employed, which I'm currently doing. And given my own diagnosis, I found that when I was at my biggest need, there wasn't really anyone there to talk to. So I went to the doctors, done everything I should have done, and it was a really, really, this is the worst time. So I went to doctors. From the doctors, you're told to then go to a community mental health team. Go to the community mental health team. You're sitting there telling them that, I feel like I want to kill myself. I'm cutting myself. Superficial cuts, but, I'm getting to a point where it's going to get worse. And you're given a leaflet. And ring these people. We can't do anything for you. They'll help you. Okay, well, they'll possibly offer you some talking therapy. But I'm telling you, when I leave here, I'm going to do something, And I'd come out of there, and I thought I'd jump through these hoops, do what I've got to do. And I spoke to the person they told me to ring. And they said, your needs are far too complex for what they're telling you to do with us. You need to go back to them. And luckily the guy at the end of the phone said, leave it with me. I'm going to go back to them and tell them that actually they need to reassess you, which was brilliant because I was then seeing it from another perspective. So the people that I was working with when I was in social services in a similar light, some of them want the help, but you can't give it to them for whatever reason. And I was doing the same. I was thinking, this is so fucking frustrating. And it's no wonder some people out there, criticise the services because it's not there. And if it is there, they're saying, off you go. Here's a leaflet, fuck off.
Yeah.
But I got referred back and, I was offered a service, but at that time, I just wanted someone to talk to. I wanted to sit in front of someone and talk to them like we are now. And for me, I thought, well, let's offer something like that then. So locally, we set up Men Talk UK.
Sorry, what's that?
Men Talk UK, yeah. So it's men-talk.uk, which is our website and our Facebook page. And between myself and 3 others, we're offering low-cost counselling. We're offering support to people if they want to come and talk to someone within a week. We'll have them there in front of us and just someone to listen to. And we've already had people come to say, look, you've saved my life, because if I didn't have someone to talk to last week, I probably would have fucking killed myself. Yeah. And that's, rewarding for us, makes us feel good, but, we're saving lives.
Yeah, yeah.
And just one life, if we can help someone, is, a job well done.
I think sometimes people only need one person to care.
Yes.
But that's enough. That one person, they think, okay.
Yeah.
It's the first step to building themselves back.
Massively. And just showing, our sort of tagline is that you're not alone. And it's just showing that. And it's all very well, being pushed from pillar to post from a community mental health team to a crisis team and whatever else out there. But by the time you've gone through all that, you fucking give up.
You're tired.
You are. You're fucked anyway. You're mentally drained. You're feeling suicidal. The last thing you want to do is make 100 phone calls before you can get an appointment with someone.
Keep getting pushed, pillar to post.
Massively. And that itself is absolutely fucking soul destroying. I've been there. I've done that. And that's why we want just, some guy who's got a bit of experience to sit down and say, what's going on for you? Do you want to talk about it? And just offering that listening ear. And it works, it does work. I mean, I did reach a point in 2020, unfortunately, where I got to a point where I thought I couldn't do anymore. And I did try killing myself. And that was like I say, early 2020. I can remember it, even driving up here. I'd drive on the same bit of motorway where I took my car off the road. And that was massive. That was, even now, as I'm saying it, I can see it.
What was going through your head?
Don't want to be here. This is it.
What was the reasonings? Was it something in particular, or?
So, I'd obviously been diagnosed long before this with my BPD, borderline personality disorder. I was taking medication. I'd had therapy. I'd been through a really crappy breakup with the mother of my daughters, and I was seeing someone else who was a lot younger than me, and that caused, my own doing, but that had caused a lot of sort of uproar, if you like. We'd been together a little while, and we moved out of our flat into a house because we got a puppy. My fucking fault. Worst thing I could have done.
I'm trying to run a business. I was just taking on a new gym. The gym itself, this was like winter time. The roof was leaking. The landlord wasn't doing anything, and I had to cancel some of my classes because the structure of it just wasn't safe enough. And then I had this new girlfriend who was not as interested in me as she was, and that was causing problems, you know. And where we was living, I don't feel, you know, she was taking care or didn't care about me or where we was living as much as I wanted. And that evening I was just like, you know, I've had enough. And we just said, you know, call it a day. And the next day I was in absolute bits, and I was sort of begging, you know, let's try again, you know, like you do. And that, you know, it was over. And she went to work, and I was like, oh, fuck this. I didn't think of my daughters. I didn't think of anyone. I wrote a note. I wrote this note, which to this day, I think I'm hoping to I want to get hold of it, this note, because I can't remember exactly what was in it. But I think it'd be quite a powerful thing to use for others. But I wrote this note, put it in the car. I didn't tell a single soul what I was going to do, or what I was thinking. Didn't think about, you know, I've got a million friends I could sort of pick up the phone to. And I drove, and it was pissing down with rain. Got on the motorway on the M2, and it was busy. It's 3 o'clock, as I say, in the evening. Absolutely hammering it down. I was in a Jag at the time, rear wheel drive, and I was hammering it. You know, I won't say how fast I was going, but it was too fast. And I know I had the music up, and I was like, do you know what? Fuck it, I don't care. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I knew I was going to drive somewhere and do something. And then I just, on the outside lane, just yanked the steering wheel over. This is it. And in slow motion, it just went over and spun. I missed every fucking car, hit the barriers on the hard shoulder, bounced me back off facing the wrong way down the motorway. A lorry stopped within about 2 meters of me. And, you know, all in that time, I thought, this is it. I'm waiting for that massive bang and, you know, the lights go out. And it didn't happen. I missed everyone. And luckily, you know, I didn't hurt anyone else.
Wow.
How? I don't fucking know. I'm just so thankful that I didn't. And, you know, I feel really sad and ashamed that I didn't even give, apart from the note, I didn't give my daughters a thought. And I was sectioned roadside. So I was sitting in the car, I rung the police, and they said, basically, you need to ring someone to come and pick you. I said, look, I'm telling you, I'm going to get out of this car. I'm going to walk in the motorway. I mean, I've tried killing myself. And the bloke's mood changed. He was like, right, stay there. And he just thought I had an accident at first. But when I said what I'd done, and the police came, and they were fucking fantastic. And they sectioned me roadside. Hadn't had a drink or anything, no drugs or anything like that. And from then I was sectioned, and I spent a little bit of time, not long, but I spent a week in St Martin's Hospital in Canterbury, which is a psychiatric hospital. And that was one of the, that's, again, as I'm saying, I can see it. And that was one of the most, that's getting me a bit. That experience is something that I don't ever want to relive, and I wouldn't want anyone else to either.
No.
Going into that hospital all on my own brought back those memories of being that scared kid again at school, as we was talking about earlier. And I was just sitting there lost. You know, this is what my life's come to now. I've tried killing myself. I'm in a psychiatric hospital. I'm 40 odd years old. And I'm surrounded by all these other people that are not well. And there were some people, you know, far more unwell than me.
I was going to say, did you feel like a imposter syndrome? You shouldn't be here.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah, 100%. But I was told, you know, you're not well. You're not well at all. There's some of it that's a bit of a blur, because they obviously give you medication, and I don't know, I couldn't even tell you what it was, but it sort of numbed you a little bit. But, you know, no word of a lie, some of the people in there were so pleasant, but some of them were so fucking unwell. I remember seeing a lad, he had staples along his neck where he tried cutting his throat, big staples there, you know, and just walking around like a zombie. People that had been in there months and months. yeah, it's awful things. Awful things.
We used to do work in one of them, so we used to walk around, like sort of construction work.
Yeah, yeah.
But we'd have access, and you're walking around there, and same thing. You see people with, blooded bandages where they've tried to do the wrists, and it's a very depressing, stressing place. Like you leave there. We're not in there for that reason. We're in there. We might be changing some doors, or but you're in there, and you sort of come out there. You feel very heavy.
Yeah,
it's not a nice place.
It's not, and that's what got me. Was I was trying to explain to them, this is going to make me feel worse. I know I'm not well, but there's people in here far more unwell than me. I think I'll be better off getting some help at home, get me back home, because this was making me feel so much worse. And I'd done, I cut myself in there. You're not allowed anything in there, but I was sent in some stuff from home, some pictures of my daughters, and in that there was a picture frame. It had a glass front. I broke that up and cut myself to bits. And that was obviously quite early on when I was in there. So I knew I wasn't well. I'm never going to be 100% mentally well because of the diagnosis I've got, but you learn to manage it a bit. And this is why I like talking about what happened, because it makes me realise how far I've come, and it hopefully will show other people that there are people there to listen. And although you can't help it sometimes, going down that road and being in a hospital like that is it's not where you want to be. No, it's not where you want to be.
A very late diagnosis as well.
Yeah. Well, they said that if I was asked the sort of same questions when I was younger, which there wasn't much attention around all that then, you probably have been living with this for quite some time. A lot of it does stem from obviously childhood trauma and some of the stuff that I'd spoken about about my parents. So it probably should have been done a long time ago.
Did you feel like you knew that you had something wrong? Or
100%.
You did? Yeah.
Always. I think a lot of us think we're different, but I always felt I was very different in a lot of ways. I would spend time overthinking a lot. I knew before that I'd hurt myself a lot. I would put, we'd be out drinking, I'd put cigarettes out on myself, and I'd hurt myself in different ways. There's many different variations of self-harm, and, I would do lots of silly things like that, smashing glasses over my head, all kinds of things. It's ridiculous, some of the stuff I did. It was for attention, but also it was to hurt myself. And when
a little bit of punishment, like 100%. You're punishing yourself, but you probably don't really know why. But
spot on, exactly that. It was almost, and then for a second, you felt a little bit better. And it's really hard for some people to get their head round, but there are other ways. And that isn't the right way to do it, because it's other people who see you go through that pain as well. Don't like to see it. And
you can hurt a lot of people around you.
Yeah, and shortly before, when I tried killing myself, there was an incident just shortly before that. And I'd taken quite a few drugs and drinking and cut myself again. And two of my mates come round who found me. And one of them, tough lads, one of them in particular, and, he went outside and threw up because what he saw the blood and stuff that I'd done to myself. So there was a build-up, but if you go back, if you tried it, there was a lot of similar characteristics early on, but no one really looked into it then. It was just, you were just that child.
Yeah, it wasn't labelled back then, was it?
No, not at all.
See, I was, not with the personality disorder, but I knew I had Tourette's from the age of 12.
Oh, really?
And I got diagnosed when I was about 32, which again, it's almost seemed pointless because they can't do nothing for it.
Yeah.
But it was. I think for me, I wanted to know, and I knew anyway. But
it's having that confirmation.
Yeah.
And man, I think then it helps you. If you've got a headache, you take a tablet for it. If you've got Tourette's, hopefully there's I don't know what there is for it. There isn't anything.
No.
For mine, there was dialectical behavioural therapy that I went through to help it with my BPD. But it's knowing what to work with, or at least trying to manage it somehow, and just having a better understanding of it, even if there's no medication or therapy for it.
Ryan, have you ever had this conversation with your daughters
about me and my mental health?
And the suicide and...
Not the suicide, but they know that me and their mum have explained it, that sometimes my head isn't well, and by that that means that sometimes I have thoughts that I don't want to have, and that can make me feel a little bit sad. I like to be direct with my girls, but I think, telling them I tried killing myself in my car. I think what are they now? They are 12, nearly 13. It's a difficult one. It's a good question. It's a difficult one. There are things they know. They probably know more anyway from, kids hear things. They pick up things, don't they? They overhear conversations that you think they're not at all aware of. But they do know that sometimes my head's not well. I've shown them the medication. I'm not taking it now, but that's for depression. I actually came off that recently, and that's another thing I want to sort of raise as well, is that don't come off medication unless you're told to by a professional. I've come off it too quick, and it's
spiraled you.
Fucking painful. It's hard, really fucking hard. So be guided by a medical professional on that. But I would tell the girls, this is my medication. I have a little pop, Monday to Sunday. This is what I take with my vitamins and my other stuff to help my head. So they're aware, and they do stuff about mental health in school, and I have explained stuff a little bit about what mental health is, in my opinion. But I haven't gone into graphic detail. If they ask, I'll tell them.
Do you think there's an element of guilt?
Massively, because I nearly left them.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing for me, that their little faces when they're sad about something, as as a dad, breaks your heart. So imagine that, me not coming home to them.
You pass your pain on to them.
Yeah, and they live with that.
Yeah.
I was sad enough in my own childhood because my dad didn't tell me he loved me or didn't give me enough attention. Imagine if that dad's not even there to physically be there.
Big time, yeah.
So,
and that's almost generational, I think, your dad. Like my dad would be 83 now. He's been gone 20 odd years. But that generation, they didn't, if they weren't having a go at you, they loved you. I think it was a tougher generation, wasn't it? They didn't cuddle you and tell you they were proud of you.
And I think there's a place, don't get me wrong, I think there's a place for it. I'm hard on my kids when I need to be. But equally, I'm always telling them I love them. Always telling them I love them. I'm always showing that I love them, not by buying them things as such.
Yeah.
I'm showing them in many different ways, and that could be cuddles, that could just be saying, look, I'm here for you, is there anything you want to talk about? And just letting them know I'm there. And imagine if I wasn't there to do that and come back to sort of 2020. Imagine them getting that, your dad's not coming.
They could be sitting there in 30 years' time doing a podcast, saying
exactly
how messed up they are.
Yeah, exactly.
Because their dad committed suicide.
And although I won't be here to see or hear any of that, you
wouldn't wish that.
No, not fucking at all.
Yeah.
And I think if anyone listening, male or female, there are other ways. Some people poo-hoo talking and say that talking therapy is a load of bollocks. It can't solve your problems, but it can certainly help, and it can certainly help you move on massively. It's, at that time, I didn't think about anyone other than I don't want to be here. And I will to this, to the day I die, I feel incredibly guilty about that.
Yeah.
Really
People don't know. It's not been suicidal before. I've stood on a bridge trying to work out whether to jump or not. I always say, my life's been up and down. I've had so many highs, but the highs make the lows worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've never lived that sort of menial life. I'm up there, I'm down here.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I enjoy my life.
Yeah.
As twisted as it is, But in the moments where you think you're done, you don't think about anyone. It's not a selfish. I mean, it is selfish, but it's not selfish at the time.
It's
Your
not
head's
deliberately
so
selfish.
Gone. Yeah. And I'm going back many years ago, but you don't think, you actually think that the world's going to be a better place without you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not.
No.
It's not. And a year down the line, you normally look back and think, fucking hell.
Yeah.
Imagine if I had.
Imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why it's good to reflect.
Yeah.
As painful as it is, even talking about it now, it's I enjoy talking about it because I'm able to, and it hopefully will help someone else. But, it's painful. It fucking hurts, of course, but that's the lessons that I'm learning from it. And, I'm hoping that one way or another, my girls see that I've powered through those difficult times, whether they know all the gory details or not. and that hopefully will empower them a little bit.
Yeah, just to see you helping. See, I find when I see someone helping other people, they've normally had trauma themselves.
Yeah,
99%
of the time.
Yeah, they know what someone's going through.
Yeah,
It's
definitely. And while I think of it as well, the statistics for men in particular. I mean, I think in the UK, I'm sure someone will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think like in 2022, I'm sure the statistics, it was like 5,500 people in the UK killed themselves, suicide. And I think it was about 4,200 of them were men.
It's crazy.
And it's the biggest single killer of men under 45.
Yeah. I read that yesterday, funny enough.
You?
Yeah.
And it's, when you think about that, and I don't, thank God, and I don't want anyone else to be one of those statistics. I want to see those numbers come down, Will they ever? I don't know. But if we're getting this message out as much as possible, then I believe little things like this, it can save a life. We've proved it in what we're doing locally.
I think it'll come down, I think it will. I think it's become, the last 5-10 years, I mean, we talk about mental health on here a lot, but the last 5-10 years it's become a lot more acceptable to be open about it.
Yeah.
And it is a disease. People do suffer with depression, and life can be fucking tough.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there. Life can be fucking hard.
Yeah.
It's just making them choices to actually reach out to someone like yourself, who's set up an organisation.
Yeah.
Where you can, or pick the phone up to the Samaritans, or talk to your pal, talk to someone on a bus. Yeah. I think it's so important just to actually open up.
I think you'd be surprised how many people nowadays, because of things like this, talk about openly, people who will, they might not understand, but they will listen more and more. And the more we do this, the more people will listen.
Yeah.
I had another incident in 2022. My best friend passed away in my gym, cardiac arrest, and literally done a session, dropped dead
in front of you.
Yeah, and I was giving him CPR for 15 minutes. Ambulance crew that were quick, and they were there. There was a first responder there within 5 minutes. And whilst he was setting up, getting the defibrillator sorted out, working on him constantly, nothing was going to save him. But I had to talk about that. I couldn't bottle that up. I had to talk about it. I had to get back in there and working. People were like, bloody hell, how's he doing that and getting back in there? But I had to talk about it. I have to get out of it. I have to mention it now because it helps me. Otherwise, you bottle it up. I can't ever keep any of these things, within. I have to get it out there, and it's so important to talk about things that might be upsetting and might bring back some horrible memories, but you will feel a lot better for it in the long run. Yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah, shutting yourself away and bottling things up, they just don't work.
It's the worst thing to do. Don't get me wrong, it's good to reset and have a holiday and have a time off social media, have a break, have a little reset, as I say. But ultimately, talk to people about that. Don't just fucking lock yourself away. Again, many of us have done it. I've done it, and it's good for no one. It's good for no one. People need you. People want you. You might have made mistakes, but we learn from it. And my saying is that we rest and we go again. We don't quit. We rest and we go again.
Yeah. I think I've always found that my most worrying times and my biggest losses have turned into my best lessons, and I've grown every time. It's the butterfly.
Yeah.
The caterpillar turned into the butterfly. Every time you think your world's over,
yeah,
it just goes mad, and you go again.
That's the beauty of life, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
That things fuck up, things go wrong. We make mistakes. Other people make mistakes. Doesn't mean your world has to end. We learn from it, we move on. And the reason I say about quitting is 2016, I was on, and I throw this out there just because I met someone really wonderful from that show, from the SAS Who Dares Win show. And I was on Series 2. We was out in the jungle in Ecuador with Ant Middleton and Foxy. And I loved the show. They've done it in Wales, and we was on the second one. Like I say, it was in the jungle in Ecuador. Fucking terrifying. Only lasted 24 hours and I fucking quit. But that's why now I say I don't, I'll rest, I won't quit. And that is a massive lesson because I regret that to
Kicking
this
yourself
day.
daily,
my God.
Yeah.
But the bloke I met from that, his name's Ephraim, and mate, he was quite a big part of the show because I mentioned earlier about his son was in, I think it was Afghanistan, and was killed by friendly fire. And we met up just 2 days ago. Actually, we keep in touch all the time, and we obviously reflect on that. But the biggest thing from that is that don't quit, rest. But he's now he's set up a charity called Strong Men, and that's for men who have experienced loss. And obviously, he's lost his son, unfortunately, in friendly fire as well, which made it all the more difficult. And again, it's like you said earlier, we've all experienced something, and it's what you use from it.
Yeah. I grew up like my dad was one of 13. 5 of his brothers and sisters were mentally handicapped.
Really?
A lot of them died. I think out of 13, they died young. My memories of being young were going to funerals.
Bloody hell.
But that's life. It's real life.
Yeah.
It's not. It's far from ideal, I'm sure. But life can be tough. And listen, in general, I'm a really positive person.
Yeah.
I love life, but there's a dark side. There's a dark side in my brain. Like I think in a lot of people's brains. We all have good days and bad days, don't we? And I love life. And I think anyone who pushes himself, if you push yourself, you do burn out quicker.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it's that we had a lady called Jo Reed on, and it was really good. She said she talked about not mental health but emotional health, and I loved it. It's one of the things that really resonated, because sometimes you're just fucked.
Yeah,
you're shattered.
Yeah,
and what it's like when you're tired. You are miserable, and you do feel. You might feel like sometimes you get home and you've probably done a 100-hour week, and the phone don't stop ringing. You've got 500-600 calls a day, and you're saying you're mentally done, but you're not. You're emotionally wrecked.
Yeah.
Right, and that's where, like you say, a good little bit of rest.
It's
and
so
then you
important.
go again. Yeah,
the sleep side of it and that rest, because emotionally you just can't pull on it anymore, and you need that reset. You need to stop.
Yeah,
stop and then go again. You're not quitting. It's not quitting. It's actually just having that reset to get them batteries recharged. It's so important. We're all very busy in life. Most of us, 99% of us, businesses and mental health, whatever it is, families. But having that little stop and that little think and reflect, and it's not quitting. It's just resting and going again.
Yeah.
And it's good that life does throw challenges at us, because it makes us appreciate the good times even more.
Oh yeah, big time.
It really does.
Yeah, without dark, there's no light.
Exactly that. No, exactly that.
But yeah, that one for me really done me. The emotional health. And I think if you diagnose someone with emotional health, I think they get over it a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Because they realise that it's not in there in a squiggly mess.
Yeah.
You just need to fucking rest.
You do.
Get some rest, and process what you're going through.
Yeah, and have a look at how hard you are working and what you're doing. Because I think sometimes we don't stop, because we just think it's the norm. We just keep going and going and going. But at the end of it, if you keep going and going, you're good for no one.
No, yeah.
And you're not the best version of you for your kids and your missus and whoever else.
Yeah. I mean, even physically, like I said to you earlier, physically, I've done my ankle in, and I'm so busy that I've done 17,000 steps in London yesterday, and I've just battered myself again.
Yeah.
When really I need to rest.
So what are you going to do about that?
I'm probably going to do nothing. I'm probably going to... No, do you know what? I'm going to take the weekend and try and rest and ice and just chill out on it.
Yeah.
But normally, I've done it for years, where something that will take 3 days to go away, life's so mental, and you just keep pounding away on it, and you're in London and you're doing this, and you're working. You can't let everyone else down, and you let yourself down.
Yeah.
And
it's only when you stop, you start to feel that physical or mental, emotional pain. Yeah. And it's okay to do that and have that little step aside. It really is. Yeah. So rest it.
I'm gonna. I need to. I'm like a sniper's nightmare at the minute. I'm walking with a really bad limp. I'm like,
here he comes.
But no, it's all good. How did you get into boxing?
Well, when I became a personal trainer, I qualified in 2011, and I was already teaching. I was doing fitness classes, boxing related. Obviously, I'd had more than enough fights in my time. Didn't have a clue how to box, and I thought, well, if I'm going to do this fitness stuff for boxing, I need to get in that ring and fight. And with my confidence as it was previously, you know, that's a massive thing. But confidence, you know, it was growing as I was getting older, and I couldn't even tell you the date when it was. It was 10 years ago. What am I now, 48? I'm going to say 10 odd year ago, and I had this fight, and it was the best thing ever. So I had this fight. I won. He didn't come out for the third round. It was like 3 2-minute rounds, unlicensed, and he was a younger lad. I still like friends with him now, actually, and it was a really good fight. I had loads of people there. Come bought tickets. It was a brilliant buzz. I was shocking. Don't get me wrong. You know, I got my nose busted, and I'm just glad he didn't come out for the next one. But yeah, I think my fitness got me through more than anything. I've always been quite fit, but I loved it. But I realised then, fuck me, that's hard work when it's just you two and the referee.
You realise how long a minute is.
Oh my god,
a minute when you're you know, like when your alarm goes off and you press snooze.
Yeah,
that minute is about 0.2 of a second.
It's ridiculous.
A minute in a boxing ring is about an hour and a half.
And when you're getting hit and trying to hit someone and they're moving, and when my nose went, the blood was gushing, and I was almost felt like I was choking on my own blood.
Yeah.
How much I was spitting the blood out, so I thought I'd go in his face a little bit, get in his eyes or something. But I put him down in the second, and I'll say he didn't come out for the third. And then from then, I've had about 10 now. Done a little bit of white collar, but mostly unlicensed. I had my last one early this year, which I won. The one before that, I thought I'd be a big boy and get him with a heavyweight, and he knocked the shit out of me within about 30 seconds. Big guy, former military man, lovely bloke, still in touch with him now as well. But again, you know, you dust yourself down, and I can do that, you know, dust myself down, just take a step back. So I've lost that one fair and square and get back on with it. So yeah, I thought if I'm going to show anyone any side of boxing, I need to know a little bit more and experience it. And I really enjoy it. I will be having another one. And I have taught people on a little bit more of a competitive level. I haven't got an amateur club or anything like that, but people who want to do, you know, maybe for the first time, white collar. I'm not a massive fan of 8 or 10 weeks of doing nothing and then fighting, you know, 8 or 10 weeks of training from nothing, you know.
Yeah.
People need a bit more on that because I think it can be quite unsafe.
Yeah.
So I want to be able to teach the best I can, and I've been learning ever since.
Nice. Yeah, it's such a good thing. But does it come back to punishment again? You know what we're saying about this almost self-harming?
Massively.
Like you kind of want to get in and be a punch bag.
Massively.
Yeah.
I don't fear, believe it or not. I want to win. I don't fear losing.
I'm the same, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't fear. When I got knocked down in front of people, twice I've been put down. I got in there with someone as well early on when I fought. Much better fight. It was a massive mismatch. My fault. I took it. But I was told he'd had just a couple of fights, but then found out he had 10 years kickboxing experience.
Yeah, one of them, yeah.
And I fucking laid into him. I thought, and he looked at me and smiled, and then he put it on me, and then fucking put me on my arse.
You see, that's the trouble with white collar, though. You know, you get a lot of they'll say, "Oh, yeah, no, he's only had one. He's had one boxing match,and you find out he's
been training for 20 years.
Yeah, he's had 20 Muay Thai.
Yeah. You know, they're going to know more than me. But again, you know, I don't fear. I love to. I'm not a bad loser. I like to win.
I just think, listen, if you lose, you learn.
Yeah,
you know,
massively.
like and I've seen so many people in and around the boxing, especially just the new ones. I've seen people who are really good, a good level at that level, a good level, but they're so frightened. They're putting it off for another year.
Yeah.
And they want to be perfect before they have their first fight.
Yeah.
You know, it's like going. You know, you go to college and you can learn for 3 years, but you'll learn more in 3 weeks when you get on a job.
On the job, yeah.
And it's like that's what boxing's like. You know, you got to just get yourself in there. And
but do you think that's a little bit to do with sort of boxing nowadays, social media, and no one wanting to lose their O?
Everyone wants a perfect record. Yeah. Everyone wants to win every fight.
Yeah.
And it's a very corrupt sport. Massively. You know, there's a lot of false records out there, especially in that. I mean, I'll say especially in the lower level. I think it's as bad throughout the whole sport.
Oh, on the upper level, massively.
Yeah. You know, there are people put in there, and people don't realise. You know, like the average person will watch Tommy Fury fighting, not realising that the geezer he's fighting's lost 200 fights and won 2.
Yeah.
You know, like, and it ain't that. It's not that he's not a good boxer. This fella.
No.
It's that he's not there to win.
No, but they won't. A lot of people as well will see him or remember him from Love Island, not the boxing ring.
Yeah.
And it's just a profile being built up. And like you say, of course he can box. You know, he comes from a boxing family. I wouldn't want to be in there with him at all. But I think
depends whose purse I was getting.
There is that. There is that. Yeah. If they're paying, I'm in there with anyone. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, he's not been in there with anyone significant at all, has he?
No, he's not. I mean, there's levels. Like you say, there's levels to boxing, and he's not there yet. But listen, I like him, and I respect what he's done, and I think I'm a big advocate for the celebrity boxing, the influencer boxing.
Yeah,
like I love it. I think it's great for the sport.
Yeah,
you know, even like yourself, you've got a boxing gym. Yeah, you do box out there.
Yeah,
that wouldn't have been busy 10 years ago.
No, not at all.
Like boxing's been put on the map.
Yeah, big time
by all this lot.
I think there's the only thing I would say about some of that is some of the people that are on it, and how I think there was a Misfits boxing where they had like tag team boxing or something. That kind of stuff. I'm like, what's that about?
Yeah.
But
that's a show.
There's a new audience there for it, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not a massive fan of Jake Paul, Mike Tyson. I don't know what your thoughts are on that. It's not my thing.
I think it depends. Unfortunately, what we'll never see is what we want to see.
Jake Paul getting spanked.
Yeah. You know what we want to see. But that's what sells a fight.
Yeah, because you want to see it.
It's entertainment.
You feed into it.
Mike Tyson's now going out there telling everyone that he's gonna, this is serious.
Yeah,
he'll pull his punches because if not, he'd fucking destroy him.
Yeah,
even at 57, 58, whatever he is now, like he still looks in good shape.
He doesn't.
I'd rather do 10 rounds with Tommy Fury than 3 with Tyson.
Really?
He looks like a beast. He's a beast.
He's still got that same movement, hasn't he?
Yeah.
And I've got to be honest, he still looks as powerful.
He'll blow, obviously. I'm sure, I'm sure there's a little bit scripted in that. You know, it's they're all going to get paid very well out of it. But
let's be honest, it's entertainment.
It's entertainment, not sports, and that's what I think people forget. You know, people think it's real. It's like this is just pure entertainment.
And and you have a choice as well. If you don't like it, don't watch it.
Yeah.
Then some of it I wouldn't watch that.
But you probably will. This is a mad thing. You say you won't, right? On that day, you'll end up putting it on. I guarantee you.
Maybe
you'll think about it, and everyone else is talking about it, and it's the fear of missing out. You think, "Fuck it, I'm going to have it."
Well, the Tommy Fury and Jake Paul fight, I weren't that interested, and then I ended up putting 400. Oh, what did I put on Tommy Fury to win? I put a good couple hundred quid on him to win, and he gave me good odds as well, and he done me a favour there.
Yeah.
It was close. But I wasn't going to be into that, and I did, and I was like, brilliant. But again, I wanted to see him actually spark him out. But
it's like that from any. We spoke to many people in the boxing industry, and there's no way Tommy Fury could have lost that fight.
No,
it was it was almost impossible, but it was a lot closer than we thought. I like what they've done with this whole game.
And respect to anyone who gets in there at the end of the day. Yeah. Anyone who steps in there in front of an audience and getting punched in the face, all credit to them, wherever you are, whatever level.
Yeah, at the hour before you go in, I think that's what's that's more scarier than
that's the hardest bit.
Yeah.
And I've always said that the thought of getting punched in the face and getting in front of people is a lot scarier than actually getting it. When that happens and your adrenaline's going, it's fine. But that build up, the nerves, the walking out, that's the bit.
I remember my mate saying to me years ago, he said, your nose only hurts the first time it's hit.
Yeah.
And it's true. When you go in, first time someone spanks you on the nose, your eyes water.
So
they don't
true.
water twice.
No, so true. So true.
Normally because I'm sparked out on the canvas.
Me and you both.
What's the future bringing? Where are you?
So at the moment, I'm actually living in my gym at the moment, so the near future, I'm getting a place sorted out very soon. So that's sort of my priority at the moment. I separated from my ex, and we still get on well in January. So getting my place sorted, which is going to be very near to where my daughters are.
Nice.
Continue to be mentally and emotionally well and available for my daughters and for people around me, so I can help others, like coming in and doing this today, because a few years ago, I might not have been able to do that. Confidence wise, am I in a position to give advice, that kind of stuff. So being able to be there for people, Yeah, because everything I do, you know, I want to be well, but I want to be able to help others, because everything we've spoken about, I want someone to learn something from me. That's kind of my legacy, if you like, is I want someone to learn something from me that helps them.
Yeah. And I think it almost gives you a bit of justification on what you've done and what you've been through.
Yeah.
You know, if someone else is saving himself or, you know, improving himself from the rough time that you've had, it gives you a little bit of justification that.
Definitely. And it's, you know, it's not been for nothing then.
Yeah.
You know, as much as we can't plan and we can't go back and change anything, and we can't plan our future, but we can learn from what we've experienced and make our future a little bit better. And if I can make it a bit better for one or two people, then, you know, I'm winning.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely, yeah. And where do people find you on socials?
So we've got our men-talk.uk on Facebook. There's a website as well which explains a little bit about my story and what I've been doing, what we do as a team as well. And a big shout to Roland, Kat and Ben and the other Ben who help us with Men Talk. So yeah, that's us, where you can get us and find out a bit more about us. Drop us a message, you know, give us a follow as well, give us a like. I get messages of support when I do my own videos saying about, you know, what I'm going through, and I'm very honest, you know, coming off my meds too quick. I've done a video about that recently, and just saying to people what I've just sort of reiterated here. You know, don't do what I've done. Go to a medical professional. And I think that honesty resonates with people. And I've had messages from people I've never met before, probably will never meet, and saying like, "Thank you for that. That's helped." And that goes a long way, because you know it's reaching someone.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think, you know, putting your heart on your sleeve, it does. You know, people sort of see the real you, and and it resonates because they're inside. That's probably how they're feeling. You know? Yeah,
definitely.
There's people out there struggling, and I think to normalise it as much as we can. Yeah, it just it gives them an outlet to, you know, to hopefully realise that if they reach out, it'll, you know, it definitely won't make it any worse.
No, and sometimes how can it? You know what I mean? I think that's what you got to remember. But yeah, do talk to someone, even if it's picking up the phone to Samaritans. You know, talk to someone. There will be someone to listen. No one can go out there and solve all your problems, but just getting that off your chest, it will make you feel that a little bit better. And it is that simple. It's hard in your head to get around that, but in terms of, you know, that is the process. Talking, there will be someone to listen. Yeah. No, look, I've loved this today. It's really real positive message. Yeah, definitely. I know we've gone a bit dark at times, but needs to be said, needs to be done. Yeah, all day long. Definitely. And, I appreciate you coming down. No, thank you very much for having me. Cheers. Hang on, mate. Thank you.